Hey folks, welcome back to Garage C. I'm Cerberus, and in this episode we start fitting the supercharger to Whisper, the Mark 1 MX5. First things first, it's time to go standalone ECU. Before we do any major mods to the engine, we want to make sure that we can run on the standalone ECU with no problems. Now the tune on this is by Dale at Bailey Performance. Big up to Dale. Link to his website below. If you want anything tuned in the West Midlands area, he's your man. So I can run this tune without the boost because everything below boost is set in the fuel tables, but this is ready for, well, not ready for, this is set to use the coilover plugs, the bigger injectors, MAF delete and an intake air temperature sensor. So I can't just put this on to the standard engine anymore. Well, I could put a standard tune on it, but I don't really see the point. So we're going to have to install this ECU, install the RX-8 yellow injectors, the MAF will have to be deleted, and we'll have to install the coilover plugs. Oh, and the wideband lambda sensor as well. So I guess we better crack on then. Right, a little bit of shaky presenter cam, I'm afraid. Camera lady isn't with us today. This is the lambda sensor, the O2 sensor. This is what records, sends to your ECU the details on your air-fuel mixture, your AFR. Now you're aiming for 14.7, right? Stoichiometric. That's where the air and the fuel is being burnt at the perfect ratio. Anything higher than that, 15, 16, 17, 18, that's lean. That's where you are not burning enough fuel. Anything lower than that, 12, 11, 10, that's rich. That's where there's more fuel in the exhaust gas, which shows that the mixture in the cylinder is rich. Now, rich is safe because the petrol cools the bore. But too much petrol and it washes past your piston rings into your sump, dilutes your oil. Oil full of petrol destroys the engine. That's called bore wash. So AFR is a delicate balancing act. This is the OEM sensor. This is a narrowband sensor. All this can sense is if you are round and about 14.7. Can't go much above, it can't go much below, because the OEM, the Mazda ECU, the Mazda OEM engine, it's all tuned, it's all good, it knows that it operates within a narrow band of AFR. So that's all it needs to know. If you go somewhere out of that, the engine management says, well, we're going to limpo mode. So what do we want? Well, we want, comes with a different connector, we want a wideband sensor. This is an Innovate MTXL, and this is the Bosch wideband sensor. This will tell the ECU everything from, I can't remember now, 6 up to 22 AFR. Once your car is tuned, we don't really care. You just keep an eye on it, make sure it's not going wildly out of range. But pretty much once the tune is complete, this is just a worry gauge. But while you're tuning, you need this. So this is going in the car, and we'll talk a little bit now about calibrating it and installing it. On my car, here's the connector running into the firewall. The bung is down here in the darkness somewhere, and for the time being sitting there, disconnected is the wideband sensor. What we need to do is calibrate it in free air. So let's grab the keys. Come on. Yeah, so that's getting edited out. And here we are in the car. So here's our wideband gauge. I'm going to turn the ignition on. And we get an E2. E2 means, only on my windscreen wipers turned on, E2 means that the sensor is disconnected, and that's what we want. That tells the gauge that next time we want to go into calibration mode. So what I have to do now is connect the sensor. With it connected, I need to make sure I put this somewhere that's going to be safe. This sensor has a heater in it, a heater coil. The sensor only works when it's hot, and I mean quite hot. I can't remember the temperature it gets to, but it's significant. You don't want that resting on anything flammable. With that connected, we get back into the car and we turn the ignition on, and the gauge is going to go into HTR, or heater. That means that that means that the sensor is heating up. So when it finishes the heating cycle, it will go into a calibration mode and calibrate the sensor in free air. There we go, calibrate. So it's calibrated the sensor, and we are now at 22.4, which, as you can imagine, is as lean as you can get, because it's the complete absence of fuel. Now we have to disconnect the sensor to make it easier to install, and install it in the exhaust. Right, so the next job on the list, put the standalone ECU in the car, which means we have to find the OEM ECU, and it's down there under that metal cover somewhere. It's a bit easier because it's winter time and I've taken my carpets out because I have a water leak somewhere and the carpets were just getting wet, so I took the carpets out so I could find the leak, and I haven't found the leak yet. I've also taken the glove box out, so that should make life a bit easier. And this is all just 10 mils. So let's crack on. There we go, there is the OEM ECU. Well, that was all lots of shots of the back of my head. What did we do? We put the diypnp in place. Now it's plug and play, this ECU. It's got the Nippon Denso 72 pin connectors on the bottom. So we plug in the left hand and the right hand. The middle one isn't used in this application. Top left we have a 4mm vacuum hose that's running to the inlet manifold, so that the ECU can read the manifold pressure. We've got two wires here that run off to our intake air temperature sensor. They run through this DB connector on the top, and that's it pretty much. Other than the chunky grey wire which you saw, and that's the serial connection, and that's what we'll plug into the laptop if we need to change any settings on the ECU. It's freezing cold at Garage C today, but we got quite a lot done. Loads done, in fact. Things we ticked off the list. Intercoolers in, superchargers in, coilover plugs are on, wideband sensor is on, standalone ECU is in, various bits and bobs of wiring reconnected and tidied up. Now don't forget, this supercharger install has been installed once before. We removed it when we swapped the engine after the big end shell damage. That was season 1. If you haven't seen it, please go back and watch it. It'd be interesting to see what you think, whether our video style has improved since season 1. So season 1 we changed the engine and we ran it normally aspirated for a little while, just so that we could be sure that we were happy with it. It's mostly in. I need a belt, because there was some damage to the 6-rib belt. So what we've done is I've taken the auto tensioner off, and we've wrapped a piece of wire around the 2 pulleys and measured the length of the piece of wire, and the piece of wire is 1104 millimeters long. So now I need to go and get a 6PK 1104, or as close as I can get to that. What else do we need to do? Next episode we will fit the belt, if it arrives in time. We need to fit the yellow RX8 injectors. We need to check that the tune on the ECU is happy and where we expect it to be. Run over calibrating some sensors maybe, but pretty much turn the key. So, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Garage C. Please, if you're a recent new subscriber, we've had a few in the past couple of weeks, please don't forget to go back and watch some of the older episodes. I think we're improving gradually, but they're worth a look. Tune in next week for Will She Make Supercharger Squealing Noises? Oh, and next week, when she's running, I'll explain a bit more about the blow-off valve, because I've had a couple of questions about the blow-off valve. So when it's running, we'll talk about the blow-off valve and how that works, because I can point at the things when it's working. But there you go, that's us for this week on Garage C. Please tune in next week. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.